So hi, my name's Jeff Goumas, and I'm founder and president of Crowded Learning. What Jen had asked me to talk about today was really just what resources are available. Crowded Learning, if you're aware of who we are, we focus on free and open education resources, specifically ones that have been recommended to us by adult educators to use with adult students. So as Jen mentioned earlier, there's lots of K-12 resources out there. And some of those may or may not be well suited for adults. So if you want to click ahead to the next slide. Oops. Oh, are you sharing? Are you giving me control, Jen?
Yes, you may share your screen.
Oh, cool. Okay. All right. I will hop into my slide in the presentation. So rather than try to, in 10 minutes, blast through the myriad resources that are out there, I wanted to sort of approach it from the standpoint of we are all sort of in kind of put out the fire mode. And I kind of feel right now that there's a lot of things flying around my email, my inbox, these free offers, they're great. And I think from talking with educators, a lot of people kind of want to be able to just stand things up right now so that learners can access them. And it obviously takes time to then think about what your sort of sequence of how you're going to be engaging learners, how you're going to be pushing out content to learners, whether it's going to be synchronous or asynchronous when those words might not even exist in a teacher's vocabulary because they've never taught from a distance. And so the way I've created this, and this is not scientific, Jen saw me pulling this together at like 11:30 last night, is thinking about what is your current learner reality and also what is your instructional reality in terms of comfort levels with different resources and sort of just how you teach. And to be clear, there's sort of two things that I think come even before this. One is establishing sort of clear communication with your learners and getting everyone on the same page in terms of what learning looks like right now for them and for the indefinite future. And then also access. So obviously a lot of these are free resources, but they're also online resources, and that's going to limit what you can or can't do with your learners. So I've kind of looked at this in terms of a spectrum of instructor involvement, from whether or not you just want to, on the low end, just stand things up, make them available to learners, where learners can actually work through those resources on their own with the obvious upfront supports that you might need to provide in terms of creating an account if such a thing exists and helping them understand how to navigate the site, to high instructor involvement, where this involves you having to actually create assignments and maybe learners aren't accessing anything unless you sort of release them. So, and pardon my cough, do not be alarmed if I cough many times on this. I've had this thing forever. I've been checked out, I'm fine. So on this sort of top left hand of the spectrum, we're looking at resources that you could literally put up on a website. You could email out to students. You could put onto some sort of storage tool like a Padlet or a Wakelet that you could make available to students, and they can literally just go and explore on their own. So the only one of these that requires an account is USA Learns. That is, as many of you know, an ESL program. It's actually language and citizenship, and students can create accounts on their own or they can be put into a class account. And so, but once again, once that student is in, it's sort of self-guided. There's no requirement that the teacher needs to be releasing assignments. All of the other ones are popular that I've seen with adult learners. We have GCF Learn Free, which is heavy in adult ed, just any content, but digital literacy, excuse me. Learning Chocolate is heavy with vocabulary, which actually I was looking at some of the CDC things coming out right now in terms of cough in your elbow, don't touch your nose or face. And Learning Chocolate actually has vocabulary sets on parts of the body and parts of the face, which I thought that's an interesting connection for English language. Reading skills for today's adults is a leveled reading library of 348 readings that are designed for adult learners. They just redid their site. It is not the Marshall Adult Education site, if you're familiar with this site before, and it's very enhanced. And then Math is Fun is a really great repository of just sort of an index of concepts in math. Sort of going to a contrary kind of thing now, on the bottom here, these have low teacher involvement. However, they have low learner agency. And one is Math and Language EdReady, which is from NROC. That is a higher level math tool that students take an initial assessment, and then they are told the skills that they need to work on, and they work through content sort of as it is laid out for them. Read Theory is also popular with a lot of adult educators. It is a Lexiled reading program that the learner takes an intake assessment. They are Lexiled, and then they are just given reading after reading, as many as they want to do. What's really nice about Read Theory is it's constantly moving them up and down in terms of Lexile level based on their performance, but it's also monitoring their progress on comprehension questions as it aligns to the college and career readiness standards. So you actually see a bar graph for each student that says how they're doing in key idea and details, craft and structure, integration of knowledge and ideas. Now I know, there's no testing happening right now, so that CCRS alignment may or may not be all that important to you right now if you just want to stand up learning, but I just wanted to point that out to you. On the sort of right side of the spectrum, where there's higher instructor involvement, all of these things in this quadrant actually can be learner self-guided, but in most cases, that's probably not a good idea because learners don't necessarily know the sequence of math concepts that they need to learn. And even though it's laid out for them in a program such as Khan Academy, which is very, very widely used with adult educators, as we have learned, one of the biggest, not complaints, but sort of issues that educators have with Khan Academy is learners don't really know where to go when they need to learn something. So there is a high level of involvement in terms of, in all of these programs, in terms of instructors needing to sort of point learners to the right content. And then at the bottom here, I don't know if it's showing it because my little nav thing, there it is. ReadWorks is also a leveled reading program. And I also forgot to mention, Common Lit is probably one of the most widely liked reading programs. It is a very comprehensive reading library for students. And all of these reading programs, actually, you can print the readings. Now that may or may not be something that's important to you right now, but in that reality where we're talking about access, you may wish to know, which of these things actually has printables, because I've heard of folks talking about creating packets that they're either going to mail to students or make available for them to pick up during certain hours. So the other thing that, in terms of, you have all this great content, and I'm going to show you a place where you can go to sort of examine all of this on our website in a second, is how are you going to coordinate access to these resources? So if you're looking at those sort of standalone, students can go at any time, then tools such as these, Wakelet, creating a Google site, which is super easy to create. Crowded Learning's website is built on Google Sites. These are all perfectly good places where you could put links to all of these tools that maybe students are either self-guiding or even the ones that you're going to use and coordinate, such as Khan Academy. Or you might want to just push out things to just keep students learning using communication apps. And these apps right here might just be important in terms of, again, as I said on the front end, understanding, getting on a sort of same page with everybody in terms of how learning is going to happen moving forward, for the time being. And then obviously, if you want to be a little bit more engaged and involved and really be managing assignments and trying to sort of keep a continuation of things as they were, these are all learning management systems that you might use. So I'm just quickly going to go to the Crowded Learning site. Again, I'm trying not to inundate people with just flurries of things because I know you're already doing that or getting that. And also Crowded Learning focuses on free resources. So while Jen showed there are really great publisher offers right now, and you should probably take advantage of those, these are only free tools. But I've broken out sort of all of these tools that we hear are very widely used with learners and instructors into communication tools that are free, And so both messaging tools as well as video conferencing tools like Zoom, which we're using now. Content resources, so there's subject areas, sort of full-scale platforms that you create accounts and students can work through content in order, as well as resources that are supplemental. And then finally, if you want to be monitoring progress, there are all of these quiz tools. A lot of these allow you to search for quizzes that other people have created, and sometimes you can actually enter the standards code and find something related to a specific thing. Google Forms is what I prefer. And in this world of sort of uncertainty, I almost recommend, I've created, and we've been using this in my group and in a project we're doing in Illinois called the Illinois Digital Learning Lab, of just a student self-reporting Google form where they just give their name, they say what they used and the activity they completed, the date they did it, an estimated amount of time they took to complete it, and then summarizing what they learned and how well they felt it worked. And this is good for student self-management, but again, if you don't really have a sequence in place right now, this might be helpful. So all of these tools are available. I'm going to put some of them, in the chat. I'm going to put a link to that page I just showed you, and we're going to have a breakout group talking about this momentarily as well.